Krylon stood at the edge of the cliff, watching the gray clouds swirl over the jagged mountains below. The wind whipped across his scaled armor, and he could feel the tension in the air. His species, the Valorians, had fought countless wars across the galaxy. They were disciplined, precise, and feared by all who faced them. Krylon had seen planets burn, cities collapse, and armies destroyed. Yet something about this planet felt different. The planet was small and barren, with jagged rocks and thin, dry air. It had no grand cities or complex defenses, only scattered settlements built from metal and stone. When Krylon's sensors first detected the human colony, his commanders had laughed. Primitive creatures, they had said. They will not last a week under Valorian attack. Krylon had been a soldier for many cycles. He knew the value of experience and efficiency, the importance of strategy and order. His species had perfected war over millennia. Humans, he thought, were an unknown variable, and unknown variables were dangerous, even if they seemed weak. The first human scouts arrived just before dusk. They were few in number, less than 20, but they moved with confidence. Krylon watched them from a hidden ridge, observing their strange formations. Unlike Valorian squads, who moved in precise patterns and followed commands without hesitation, humans darted across the rocks unpredictably. One soldier crawled along a ridge, then suddenly ran back to help a comrade who had stumbled. Another carried a heavy metal box, using it as a makeshift shield. Krylon frowned. The humans were ill-equipped, slow, and their movements seemed chaotic. Yet something about the way they worked together made him uneasy. They did not panic under fire. They did not flee. Even when his long-range sensors fired warning shots to scare them, they continued forward. The first battle came quickly. Krylon's unit was ordered to test the humans' defenses. He followed behind his squad, the heavy hum of Valorian weapons vibrating through his body. They descended into the valley where the humans had made their settlement. Smoke rose from small fires, and the humans had barricaded themselves with scrap metal and rocks. The aliens opened fire. Energy beams cut across the sky, and the humans scattered. Krylon expected chaos. He expected screams. He expected them to break and surrender, but they did not. Instead, humans adapted. One man, carrying a large metal beam, used it to block an energy blast, then threw it back toward Krylon's squad. Another group dug into the ground, creating small trenches that hid their movements. When Krylon's unit advanced, the humans used slings, nets, and even ropes to slow them down. Every time the aliens had a clear path, the humans created a new obstacle. Krylon's heart beat faster. He had faced thousands of opponents. But these humans, weak, fragile, and slow, were causing more confusion than many alien armies he had fought. "Commander Krylon," said Vethar, his second-in-command, "they are only humans. They cannot withstand our full force. Shall we proceed with the strike?" Krylon hesitated. "Not yet," he said. "Observe, learn. They are unpredictable. That makes them dangerous." Vethar nodded, but Krylon could see doubt in his eyes. This was unusual. Valorians did not doubt. Doubt was weakness. As night fell, the humans disappeared into the shadows. Krylon's squad could not find them. They had melted into the terrain as if they were part of the rocks themselves. Krylon climbed to the top of the ridge and looked down at the valley. Fires burned low, and the air was quiet except for the distant cries of animals. For the first time, Krylon felt a shiver of respect, or perhaps fear. Humans were not like other species he had fought. They were small, fragile, and unpredictable, but their courage was immense. They risked themselves to save others, adapted quickly, and never lost hope. These were traits Krylon's species considered illogical, yet they worked. Against all odds, humans survived. Over the next few days, Krylon's unit attempted more attacks. Each time, the humans resisted. They set traps that Krylon's advanced sensors had not predicted. They communicated using hand signals, simple codes and noises that made no sense to Valorian ears, yet somehow coordinated perfectly. Krylon began recording everything in his private journal. "Humans are strange creatures," he wrote. "They fight not only to win, but to protect each other. They do not retreat when threatened. They do not surrender even when defeat is certain. There is a strength here that defies logic." One evening, Krylon watched a young human soldier carrying an injured comrade across open ground. The alien sniper fire cut the air around them, energy beams sizzling through the rocks. The human stumbled, but his companion held on. They did not stop. They did not panic. They reached a safe place, and the injured man was helped into a shelter. Krylon's jaw tightened. In Valorian culture, sacrificing oneself for another was considered foolish, but humans valued it. Krylon wondered what it meant to fight for something larger than yourself. His species fought for orders, for efficiency, for glory in battle. Humans fought for each other. That was something new, something he could not ignore. The humans also began counterattacks, small, sharp strikes at Valorian patrols. They used the terrain to their advantage, hiding behind rocks, using caves, and even small machines that Krylon had never seen before. Each attack was daring and clever. Each time, the Valorian soldiers were forced to retreat or rethink their strategy. Krylon began speaking to his squad differently. He no longer gave only orders. He asked questions. He suggested alternatives. Vethar noticed the change, though he said nothing. Krylon knew the humans were teaching him something. Even as he fought against them, he learned from them. By the end of the first cycle of battle, Krylon's squad had lost several soldiers, none to fear or incompetence, but because the humans were clever, brave, and persistent. Krylon reported to the commander of the fleet. "Commander," he said, "these humans are different. We cannot underestimate them." The commander's antennas twitched with irritation. "You exaggerate, Krylon. They are primitive, weak. You are overthinking." "Commander, with all respect," Krylon replied, "they are not weak. They survive in ways we do not understand. They fight with courage that cannot be measured by technology alone." The commander paused, considering, but finally dismissed Krylon with a flick of his claws. "Continue the assault. Crush them quickly." Krylon left the command hall feeling conflicted. He did not trust the humans blindly, but he also could not ignore the truth. There was something remarkable about them. He could feel it in the way they moved, the way they thought, and the way they cared for each other. That night, Krylon sat alone in a ruined building, watching the stars through a cracked ceiling. He took out his journal and began to write. "Today I saw humans save each other under fire. I saw courage and intelligence combined in ways my species rarely values. They are terrifying, not because they are strong, but because they are unpredictable. I cannot tell if they will win or lose, but I must watch them carefully. There is something here worth learning." A distant explosion shook the ground. Humans had set a trap somewhere beyond the ridge. Krylon smiled slightly. Even after one cycle, they had managed to challenge a full Valorian squad. This was impossible by all known standards, yet here it was. As he prepared for sleep, Krylon felt a strange sensation in his chest. Curiosity, respect, perhaps even admiration. It was a foreign feeling for a Valorian soldier, but it was growing stronger with each encounter. He realized that the humans were not just an enemy, they were a mystery, and mysteries demanded attention. Before dawn, Krylon climbed the ridge again. He watched the humans move below, preparing defenses, training, and caring for each other. He saw laughter, frustration, and determination in their actions. They were alive in a way his soldiers rarely were, and for the first time, Krylon wondered if his species, so focused on perfection and efficiency, had missed something fundamental. Humans, fragile as they were, thrived in chaos. They fought with purpose, hope, and heart. They were, in every sense, terrifyingly strong. The sun rose over the horizon, casting long shadows across the valley. Krylon felt a strange excitement in his chest. The war was just beginning, and humans were already teaching him lessons he could never have imagined. He turned back toward his squad, ready for the next assault, yet determined to watch, learn, and understand these creatures. Something told him that the humans would leave a mark, not just on this battlefield, but on Krylon himself. And as he stepped forward, Krylon whispered to himself, "This is going to be a nightmare, but perhaps the most enlightening one I have ever faced." The sun had barely risen over the jagged peaks of the human settlement when Krylon climbed the ridge to observe the valley. The first cycle of battle had ended, but the humans were not finished. They moved with purpose, repairing barricades, setting traps, and training their young soldiers. Each action was deliberate, precise, and surprisingly creative. Krylon's antennas twitched as he recorded every detail in his mind. Vethar approached him silently. "Krylon, the humans are strange. They fight with heart, not logic. It confuses our troops." Krylon nodded. "Yes, that is exactly what makes them dangerous. Logic alone will not defeat them." For days, Krylon's unit attempted repeated assaults on the human settlement. Each attack brought frustration. The humans adapted faster than the Valorians anticipated. Where the aliens expected disarray, they found organization. Where they anticipated fear, they found courage. The humans' improvisation seemed random, yet it consistently disrupted Valorian strategy. Krylon began studying them more closely. He observed how small squads moved in ways that exploited the terrain. Rocks were not just obstacles, they were shields, ambush points, and hiding places. Even the smallest children helped in subtle ways, signaling to soldiers, carrying supplies, and watching for danger. Every human contributed to the effort, no matter how small. During one attack, Krylon's unit moved to capture a ridge that overlooked the human settlement. The humans, however, had dug trenches, set nets, and placed tripwires. One human, no older than 15, ran ahead carrying a makeshift flag. She waved it boldly as though daring the Valorians to advance. Krylon's squad fired, but she ducked behind a rock and disappeared, only to reappear moments later in another location. Krylon shook his head. "They are unpredictable and brave." Vethar frowned. "Brave does not win battles. Technology wins battles. We have the advantage, Krylon. We just need persistence." Krylon studied the humans again. Persistence alone would not be enough. They fought for each other, protected each other, and never gave up. The Valorians could be persistent, but humans were more than persistent. They were determined, imaginative, and selfless. Later that day, Krylon witnessed something that unsettled him more than any battlefield tactic ever could. A human soldier, badly wounded, had fallen in the middle of the open field. Another human ran straight into the line of Valorian fire to drag him to safety. When an energy beam struck the rescuer's arm, he did not scream or retreat. He gritted his teeth and continued forward. Krylon felt a pang of something he did not understand, respect perhaps, or maybe awe. Krylon returned to his temporary shelter that night and wrote in his private journal, "Humans fight not only to win, but to protect each other. They risk everything for comrades. They do not consider their lives more valuable than those they care about. This is unlike any species I have observed. They are terrifying in ways our technology cannot measure." The following days were a blur of battle and observation. Krylon began noticing patterns in human behavior. They used distraction, misdirection, and creativity in every encounter. One squad lured Valorian troops into a narrow canyon where rocks had been loosened to fall at the right moment. Another group set fires to blind sensors, then struck from unexpected angles. Krylon realized that humans did not fight like any known species. They fought like nature itself, unpredictable, adaptable, and relentless. Krylon also began seeing small acts of compassion. Humans shared water, tended wounds, and encouraged each other even in the heat of battle. Unlike Valorians who valued efficiency and obedience, humans valued each other. Krylon could not understand it, yet he could not deny the effect it had. His squad began to falter not because of skill, but because Krylon's mind was occupied by questions. "Why do they care?" Krylon muttered to himself. Vethar looked at him curiously. "Care? You mean weakness?" Krylon shook his head. "No, not weakness. Strength. They fight with something more than strategy. They fight with heart." One morning, Krylon's commander ordered a full assault. The goal was simple: wipe out the human colony and establish control. Krylon led his squad into the valley, but he could sense unease among the soldiers. Their technology was superior, yet the humans were always one step ahead. The humans did not wait passively. They struck first, using traps, ambushes, and guerrilla tactics. Valorian soldiers fell in ways Krylon had never expected. Krylon himself narrowly avoided an exploding trap that hurled him into a shallow trench. As he got up, he saw a young human, barely 16, aiming a slingshot with deadly precision. The rock hit one of Krylon's soldiers in the chest, knocking him unconscious. Krylon froze. He had faced countless enemies across countless wars, but never a child who could fight with such courage. He felt a strange admiration mixed with fear. They will not surrender. They will not quit. Later, Krylon's squad advanced cautiously, learning from their mistakes. They discovered the humans had dug a network of tunnels beneath the valley. Krylon watched as humans disappeared underground, only to reappear behind Valorian lines. Supplies were stolen, traps were reset, and Valorian formations were disrupted. Krylon realized that humans were not just surviving. They were teaching themselves how to defeat a superior force. That evening, Krylon returned to his observation post. He felt exhaustion in his muscles, but his mind was alive. He began talking to himself quietly. "They are not predictable. They are clever, brave, and dangerous, perhaps the most dangerous creatures I have ever faced." He opened his journal and began writing again. Observation. Humans adapt faster than expected. They improvise weapons and tactics. They show courage beyond logic. They act to protect one another even at great personal risk. I cannot tell if we can destroy them. Perhaps we are the first to truly underestimate the human spirit. The days turned into cycles. Krylon began noticing subtle human tactics, signals through sounds, markings on rocks, even the way they moved shadows to deceive sensors. Each day brought new challenges for the Valorians. Krylon began suggesting changes to strategy, but his superiors often ignored him. One day, during a small skirmish, Krylon witnessed something that would change him forever. A human soldier, trapped under fallen rubble after an explosion, screamed for help. Another human immediately ran into the open, dodging laser fire, and lifted the debris with incredible strength. Others arrived to assist, forming a chain. They carried their wounded comrade to safety without hesitation, without fear. Krylon's antennas twitched as he observed. He realized this was more than courage. It was loyalty, compassion, and love for one another. Valorians fought for orders and glory. Humans fought for life itself and for each other. Vethar noticed Krylon staring silently. "Krylon, they are only humans. Focus on the mission." Krylon shook his head. "No. Focus is irrelevant. Observe, learn. There is something here we do not understand. Something more than power or strategy." That night, Krylon sat in his tent, writing in his journal. His words came slowly, carefully, as if he were trying to capture something immense. Humans do not fight like other species. They think creatively, act bravely, and care for each other. They adapt to impossible situations and continue moving forward. They survive not because of technology, but because of spirit. I have never seen anything like this. I do not know if they will win the war, but they are already leaving a mark on me. They are remarkable. The next cycle of battle was approaching, and Krylon's squad prepared with renewed caution. For the first time, Krylon considered the humans not as enemies to destroy, but as teachers from whom he could learn. Every encounter, every skirmish, every daring move by the humans brought him closer to understanding their strength. The humans, too, were learning. They had begun to anticipate Valorian tactics, setting traps that Krylon had never imagined. They struck with daring precision, often disappearing before the Valorians could respond. Krylon realized the humans were not just reacting, they were thinking ahead, predicting, and improvising. During a particularly fierce battle, Krylon's squad became trapped between two cliffs. Humans attacked from above and below, using the terrain expertly. Valorian soldiers panicked, expecting an easy path to escape, but Krylon observed the humans calmly coordinating their movements. One human, carrying an injured comrade, climbed a narrow ledge to create a distraction, allowing others to escape. Krylon's antennas twitched with something unfamiliar. Admiration. They fight not to kill, but to survive and to protect. When the battle ended, Krylon returned to his tent, exhausted but reflective. He wrote in his journal, "Humans have survived against a force far superior to their own. They have adapted, improvised, and displayed courage in every encounter. I am beginning to understand that true strength is not measured in weapons or numbers, but in heart, spirit, and determination. Humans are extraordinary." As Krylon looked out at the horizon, he saw humans moving through the valley, tending to each other, repairing defenses and training for the next cycle. They were alive in a way that Valorians rarely were, brave, determined, and unyielding. Krylon knew that the battles ahead would test every skill he had learned, but he also knew something else. Humans would never be defeated by fear, and they would never fight alone. For the first time, Krylon felt a strange hope. Perhaps there was something to learn here, something beyond strategy, beyond orders, beyond technology. Humans were more than a challenge. They were a revelation. And as the stars appeared in the sky, Krylon whispered quietly to himself, "I will learn from them. I will understand them, and perhaps I will fight differently because of them." The morning fog hovered low over the valley, wrapping the rocky hills in a pale white blanket. Krylon moved silently along the ridge, his sensors scanning for human activity below. For weeks, he had observed humans from a distance, learning their patterns, their tactics, their strength. But today, Krylon would move closer. Today, he would see the humans not just as opponents, but as living beings with courage, hearts, and determination. His squad followed cautiously, weapons raised, energy pulses humming in the air. Krylon's mind was conflicted. Every instinct told him to attack, to obey the commands of the Valorian fleet. But another part of him, a part he had never felt before, urged him to watch, to learn, and perhaps to understand. The humans were already awake, preparing for what they knew would be another wave of alien attacks. Children carried water, medics checked the wounded, and soldiers trained with makeshift weapons. Every action was purposeful, every motion deliberate. Krylon noticed something remarkable. Even the youngest humans contributed to the effort. Every person mattered, every role was important, and every act of courage inspired the next. As Krylon watched, a sudden explosion shook the valley. A small Valorian patrol had triggered a trap, and the humans immediately responded. One soldier darted forward, pulling an injured comrade out of harm's way. Another created a diversion, leading the Valorian patrol into a narrow canyon where rocks had been loosened for just such an ambush. Krylan's squad froze, watching humans move with precision and bravery that no simulation or prediction could have prepared them for. Krylan's antennas twitched in amazement. He had never seen such quick thinking, such unity, such relentless courage. Humans were unlike any species he had encountered in his long career. They were fragile in appearance, but their hearts, minds, and spirits were indomitable. After the skirmish, Krylan made a decision. He would move closer, infiltrate the human lines, and see firsthand what drove them. Perhaps understanding them could give him insight he could not gain from observation alone. He slipped down into the valley under cover of rocks and smoke. The humans were busy repairing defenses and tending to the wounded. Krylan stayed hidden at first, studying them, noting their interactions, their language, and their care for one another. He noticed something he had never considered before. Humans laughed even in the face of danger. They joked softly, encouraged one another, and found small moments of joy amidst chaos. Krylan felt a strange warmth inside him. Valorians rarely experienced such emotions during war. They were trained to be efficient, logical, and disciplined. Emotions were distractions, weaknesses. Yet here, emotions were strength. They gave the humans courage, determination, and resilience. Krylan began to write notes in his private journal. Humans draw strength from one another. They fight not only to survive, but to protect, to care, to live fully even in peril. There is something profound here, something no technology can measure. Suddenly, Krylan heard voices in the distance. A small human squad approached, carrying supplies and checking the perimeter. Krylan's instincts screamed to hide, but curiosity forced him forward. He stepped onto a ridge and the humans froze, staring at him. For a moment, everything held still. The fog, the valley, the soldiers. Then one human, a young woman with short brown hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice was steady, even though she was clearly startled. Krylan raised his hand slightly, signaling that he meant no harm. "I am Krylan," he said in broken human language, carefully mimicking the sounds. "I observe. I do not wish to fight." The woman narrowed her eyes, her hand resting on the makeshift weapon at her side. "An alien? Alone?" "Yes," Krylan said. I watch humans." A tense silence followed. Krylan expected them to attack, to flee, or to capture him. Instead, the woman lowered her weapon slightly and glanced at her companions. They whispered quickly among themselves, then nodded. Krylan realized they had decided to trust him, at least for the moment. "You can follow," the woman said finally. "But no tricks. If you hurt us, we kill you." Krylan nodded. He followed cautiously as the humans led him to their small camp. He noticed the care they showed for one another. Wounded soldiers were bandaged, children were kept safe, and everyone contributed to the tasks at hand. Krylan had seen this from a distance, but up close, it was even more remarkable. Over the next few cycles, Krylan spent more time with the humans. He learned their language, their customs, and their ways of thinking. He observed their courage, their loyalty, and their willingness to risk themselves for others. He began to understand why they could survive against a superior force. They were united, resilient, and adaptive in ways the Valorians could not predict. One day, disaster struck. Krylan and a small human squad were sent to scout an abandoned facility on the edge of the valley. As they approached, a Valorian patrol appeared unexpectedly, cutting off their escape. Krylan realized they were trapped. The humans did not panic. Instead, they organized quickly, using the terrain and improvised tools to defend themselves. Krylan fought alongside them, his weapons coordinating with theirs in a strange but effective harmony. They moved as one, covering each other, protecting the wounded, and striking with precision. Krylon realized that these humans were teaching him something fundamental. True strength came from unity, courage, and trust. Hours passed in tense combat. The humans were injured, exhausted, but they never gave up. Krylon marveled at their determination. One soldier, despite losing a leg, continued to provide covering fire for others. Another, separated from the group, managed to disable a Valorian weapon system using a simple tool and quick thinking. Krylon's respect for them grew with every action. As night fell, Krylon and the humans finally found a safe path back to the valley. The soldiers were weary but alive. Krylon looked at them, and for the first time, he felt a sense of belonging, not to the Valorian army but to this small group of humans who had accepted him despite his origins. That night, Krylon wrote in his journal, "Humans are not just brave. They are clever, compassionate, and selfless. I have seen them risk their lives to protect others, think creatively to overcome impossible odds, and maintain hope even in despair. I am beginning to feel something unfamiliar. Respect, admiration, perhaps even connection." The next cycles brought more challenges. Valorian forces escalated their attacks, but the humans adapted with astonishing speed. Krylon noticed that they used his knowledge of Valorian tactics to prepare defenses, predicting likely strategies and setting traps accordingly. Krylon realized he had become a bridge between two worlds, a Valorian soldier learning from humans, teaching humans indirectly about his species, and slowly questioning his own orders. During a supply mission, Krylon witnessed one of the humans perform an act that left him speechless. A small boy, no older than 10, carried water to the wounded despite heavy fire. He stumbled, fell, and continued, his determination unwavering. Krylon had seen Valorian soldiers trained to perfection, but never such pure courage. He began to understand that the human's strength came not from power or technology, but from spirit and heart. Krylon's own squad began noticing the change in him. They whispered among themselves, questioning his loyalty and judgment. Krylon ignored them, focused on learning from the humans. He knew that their methods, their courage, and their unity were something his species could never truly understand without experiencing it firsthand. One evening, Krylon sat by a small fire with the human squad. They shared stories, food, and laughter. Krylon learned of their families, their hopes, and their dreams. They spoke of a world they wanted to protect, a future they hoped to see, and a life beyond war. Krylon realized that humans fought not for conquest, not for glory, but for life itself. The humans trusted him, and he trusted them. For the first time in his life, Krylon felt something Valorians rarely experienced, a bond of understanding, a connection that transcended species, language, and the battlefield. But the war was not over. Krylon knew that sooner or later the Valorian fleet would discover his association with the humans. He would face a choice: obey his orders or follow the lessons he had learned from these remarkable creatures. For now, he focused on the present, on survival, on learning, and on helping the humans in any way he could. Every encounter, every small victory, every act of courage reinforced a simple truth: humans were extraordinary. They fought with heart, thought with ingenuity, and lived with purpose. As the stars rose above the valley, Krylon looked at the human soldiers around the fire. He felt hope, admiration, and a strange sense of belonging. They had taught him more in a few cycles than he had learned in centuries of Valorian warfare. And he knew that the story of humanity's courage, resilience, and unity would stay with him forever, perhaps even change the course of his life. Krylon whispered quietly to himself, "They are not just survivors. They are teachers, warriors, and friends. I will not forget what they have shown me." And as the night settled over the valley, Krylon prepared for the next challenge: knowing that the humans would continue to defy all expectations, and he would continue to learn from them. The first light of dawn broke over the jagged horizon, casting long shadows across the valley. Krylon stood silently on the ridge, looking down at the human settlement he had come to admire. Over the past cycles, he had watched them fight, survive, and inspire one another in ways no Valorian army had ever imagined. Their courage, unity, and ingenuity had reshaped his understanding of strength. Yet Krylon knew that this battle was far from over. The Valorian fleet had grown impatient, sending reinforcements to crush the humans once and for all. The humans, however, were ready. They had learned from their experiences, improved their defenses, and now fought not only for survival, but for a future they could build together. Krylon's antennas twitched with anxiety. He had been part of the Valorian army for centuries, trained to obey orders without question. But the humans had taught him something new. True strength came from courage, loyalty, and compassion, not blind obedience. He knew that his next actions could decide the fate of both species. The humans began their day with preparation. Soldiers checked weapons, repaired barricades, and moved the wounded to safer positions. Children carried supplies, scouts reported enemy movements, and engineers reinforced traps. Krylon observed quietly, amazed at the discipline and cooperation of a species so small and fragile in appearance. Vethar approached Krylon, his antennas lowered with concern. "Krylon, the fleet grows impatient. Orders are clear. Attack now. If we delay, we risk failure." Krylon shook his head slowly. "No, Vethar. We have learned something. The humans are not merely obstacles. They are warriors. They fight with unity, courage, and heart. To destroy them blindly would be wrong." Vethar frowned, the scales of his face twitching nervously. "Wrong? You speak as though morality matters. We follow orders, Krylon. This is war." Krylon looked down at the valley below, watching a group of human soldiers assist a wounded comrade across open ground. A small boy ran ahead, waving to guide them to safety. Krylon felt something unfamiliar stir in him: respect, admiration, and perhaps even a sense of duty toward these humans he had come to understand. "I have seen them," Krylon said quietly. "I have seen what they fight for. I cannot destroy them without betraying everything they have shown me." Vethar's eyes widened in shock. "You mean you refuse to follow orders?" Krylon nodded. "Yes, I will fight for life, not just conquest." That day, the battle began. Valorian forces advanced on the human settlement, expecting an easy victory. Krylon's squad was positioned at the front, but Krylon gave new orders, ones the Valorians had never trained for. He instructed his soldiers to disable their own weapons where possible, avoid killing humans, and focus on defensive strategies that would protect civilians. Some Valorians obeyed hesitantly, others whispered about treachery. As the humans noticed Krylon's squad moving differently, confusion rippled through the Valorian ranks. Humans, ever observant, realized that some Valorians were not attacking as expected. They adapted quickly, taking advantage of the disruption and using Krylon's knowledge to strengthen their defenses. The battle escalated. Valorian warships fired from above, but the humans had prepared carefully. They used trenches, hidden bunkers, and clever traps to minimize casualties. Small squads moved swiftly, rescuing wounded soldiers and defending key positions. Krylon fought alongside them, using his advanced skills to support rather than dominate. During the chaos, Krylon witnessed acts that would remain with him forever. A young woman risked her life to pull 2 injured soldiers from the open field. An older man, armed with nothing but a metal rod, stood in front of a Valorian weapon to shield children moving to safety. Even the smallest humans contributed, showing bravery and ingenuity beyond what any Valorian could predict. Krylen's heart, something he had long ignored as a Valorian, beat faster. He realized that the humans were not only surviving, they were thriving in adversity. Their courage, unity, and determination created a force far stronger than their size or technology suggested. Hours passed in relentless combat. Valorian forces, though superior in firepower, became increasingly disorganized due to Krylen's unconventional tactics and the humans' quick thinking. Each ambush, each diversion, each act of bravery forced Valorians to retreat or rethink their strategies. Krylen realized that humans fought not just with skill, but with a spirit that no weapon could destroy. During a critical moment, Krylen found himself face to face with his former commander. The Valorian leader's eyes glimmered with anger. "Krylen, you betray your species! Attack now!" Krylen raised his weapon, but he did not aim at the humans or the commander. Instead, he activated a device that disabled several Valorian warships temporarily, giving the humans an opening to counterattack. Krylen's actions confused the Valorians, but the humans seized the opportunity. They launched a coordinated strike, forcing the remaining alien forces to retreat. The battle ended as night fell. The humans had survived what seemed impossible. Krylen stood among them, exhausted but alive. He looked at the settlement, the people who had fought so bravely, and felt a profound respect. Humans were small, fragile, and yet more powerful than most species in ways Valorians could not measure. Krylen's private journal was filled with words he never thought he would write. Humans have survived the full might of the Valorian fleet. They have fought with courage, ingenuity, and compassion. They do not abandon each other. They do not surrender hope. I have seen acts of bravery that surpass anything I have witnessed in centuries of war. These humans, they are extraordinary. In the aftermath, Krylen faced a difficult choice. The Valorian fleet demanded his return, but he knew he could not obey. He had seen what humans were capable of, and he had learned lessons his species could not teach. He chose to stay among the humans, helping them rebuild, protecting them, and recording their stories. Over the following cycles, Krylen traveled with the humans, documenting their victories, their struggles, and their acts of bravery. He wrote detailed accounts for himself, not as a soldier of the Valorians, but as a witness to the indomitable spirit of humanity. One evening, Krylen sat on a ridge overlooking the valley, watching humans work together to repair a damaged building. Children laughed while carrying supplies. Soldiers trained carefully. Families shared food and stories. Krylen realized that the humans' strength did not lie in weapons or armor, but in heart, unity, and hope. A young human approached him, smiling. "You fought with us today? Thank you," she said. Krylen nodded. "You taught me what it means to be brave, to fight for more than oneself. I am grateful." The girl's smile widened. "You are one of us now. You belong here." Krylen felt a warmth he had never known. For the first time in his life, he felt truly connected, not to his species, not to orders, but to life itself. Humans had shown him a new way to live, a new way to fight, and a new way to understand strength. As days turned to cycles, Krylen became a storyteller among the humans. He recorded their history, their victories, and their lessons for the future. He told them of Valorian tactics, yes, but he also told them of courage, compassion, and the power of unity. The humans learned from him, but he also learned from them. Krylen's journal, titled Nightmare on the Human Battlefield, became a testament to the resilience of humanity. He wrote of battles won against impossible odds, of soldiers who risked everything for each other, and of a species that thrived not because of superior technology, but because of heart. Eventually, Krylen knew he could not stay in one place forever. The galaxy was vast, and the humans would face new challenges. He prepared to leave, carrying with him the lessons he had learned. But he also knew that the humans had left an imprint on him that could never be erased. They had shown him courage, ingenuity, and unity in the face of overwhelming odds. Before departing, Krylin looked back at the valley one last time. Fires burned low in the settlement, children laughed in the distance, and soldiers trained under the starlit sky. Krylin whispered quietly to himself, "These humans? They are extraordinary. They fight not just to survive, but to protect, to hope, and to live. I will carry their story across the stars, and I will never forget what they have shown me." As he boarded a small ship to leave the planet, Krylin felt a strange sense of peace. The humans had survived, thrived, and inspired him. The Valorian fleet would remember him as a traitor, but Krylin no longer cared. He had witnessed the true strength of humanity. He had learned that courage, compassion, and determination could overcome even the most overwhelming odds, and as the stars stretched out before him, Krylin smiled. Humanity had survived the nightmare of the battlefield, and in doing so had transformed him forever. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges, enemies, and unknown worlds. But Krylin knew one truth that would guide him through every future battle. Humans were worth learning from, fighting for, and admiring. For even in the darkest battles, humanity's spirit shone brighter than any weapon, stronger than any armor, and more enduring than any army. Krylin had seen it firsthand, and he would carry that story wherever he went.